I only hope you can forgive me. I didn't want it to end this way. I love you, Mom and Dad. Love you always, Scott Hammersmith. That's my son. Do you remember April 6, 2006? What were you doing that day? The day of the household of the Hammersmith family is what I'm going to tell you a story. It started out any other day. Kids getting ready for school, breakfast, let's go, let's move, we need to eat, we need to get the bus, we need to get to school. I remember having a little argument with Scott because he wouldn't pick his clothes up. You need to pick your clothes up, you need to put them in your room. Yeah. They still laid there that night. As we were leaving for school, I took Stephen, I drove him. He was an 8th grader at the time, and Scott was 16. So he drove. I remember going out to his car, and he was sitting there reading a quote that his coach Held would always give them, they would read. And I remember knocking on his window, blowing him a kiss and saying, I love you, have a good day. That's the last. I went about my day. It was a week before Easter. Busy schedule, baseball all weekend. They both played, Stephen and Scott. So I talked Sarah into, let's go get groceries. Easter's coming up. We won't have time to get this and that and done. And I thought, oh, I'll just miss one baseball game. Just one baseball game. It'll be okay. It wasn't okay. After Sarah and I came home that evening, approximately 7 o'clock, my son had already completed suicide. I remember driving into the driveway and thinking, the house is really dark. Something's wrong. I remember telling Sarah to stay in the garage. It's that gut feeling, that mother instinct. I remember going into the house and finding the letter on the kitchen table. Proceeded into my bedroom, the light was on, and Scott laid in a pool of blood. He had found one of our guns and pointed under his chin and pulled the trigger. I will tell you, I see that every day. It's been 8 years. It doesn't go away. I remember thinking, he was just hurt, he'll be okay. I remember calling 911. I remember the sheriff coming, and I'm looking at him, and him telling me, shaking his head no. I remember my husband coming home from baseball practice. He had no idea. He was with Stephen, pulling in the driveway, lights, family members, all of us in the front yard. At the end of that day, April 6, 2006, approximately 7 p.m., I became not just a wife, a mother, but now I'm a survivor of suicide. And as Tante told you, I stand here and I tell you, I was everything that she said. There was weeks and days afterwards that I just wanted to be with my son. I also was done. But I knew I couldn't do that. I became mad, I became angry, I came with a vengeance of trying to figure out what had happened to our son. What did we do to make Scott leave us? Were we too hard on him? what was so bad about his life that he had to do this. The most selfish act that someone can possibly do. Because not only did he, yes, his pain is gone, but he leaves so much more behind. I wear a necklace around my neck and I tell people, this is my son. And it's close to my heart because my heart some days is very heavy. All of these are unanswerable questions because the person who could only answer these is God. As parents, we had no clue of what was going through him, through his mind. I trusted my children. He was a good boy. He was a straight-A student. The day after he died, his grade card came in the mail. It wasn't just A's, it was A+. He strived for the best. He did his best. He wouldn't even drink pop because he didn't want caffeine in his body. He took care of himself. Probably about 2 weeks after his passing, my son, Stephen, he was angry. You know, not only did he leave us behind, but now Stephen has become the older brother, and Sarah, who was the age of 10 at the time. I remember him going up to his room and ripping it apart to find the answers of why his brother would do such a thing. And we found journals. Scott had been keeping journals, writing late at night, and dating them on what he was going through. And as he wrote, the only time anyone is going to read this is if I commit suicide and they tell mom and dad to read this. No one will ever know until I'm gone. His goal was to keep it a secret. His goal was to still live that perfect life that we thought he was. And I thought we had. He came from a good home, a good solid home. A mother, a father who loved him, grandparents, siblings. What could he possibly be struggling with? And it was all inside. It was internal. So now my path that Scott has chosen for me is to speak of suicide, to speak of what it has done to our family. You can read it in a book, and you know the statistics, but I'm standing here before you. Because some days are better than others. Approximately like 2 weeks ago, and it's been 8 years, and I couldn't get out of bed. The scare I have now is I can't remember his voice. As a mom, as parents, my husband, I can't tell you how bad that hurts. I tell people that Scott completed suicide. He didn't commit suicide, he didn't commit a crime. He completed his life. And now, parents tell me, because of you and your story, I ask questions. I talk to my children. We all get busy. We were a busy family because I thought if we're busy, then he's okay. Stephen's okay. Sarah's okay. They're busy. I know where they're at. They're good kids. So now I have chosen to educate people the best I know how. The best I know how I live every day, our family lives every day. The possible signs of depression, I look back now, he had the ups and downs, as a teenage boy would have, and I would ask my husband, what is going on? What can I do to help him? And Fred would say, well, it's teenage stuff, it's boy stuff. You don't want to go there. But he was struggling, and that was his way of showing it. I can't express enough, especially to the young people now, that the stigma of depression, that it's okay to seek help. Scott had also wrote in his journal that he thought he was the only one that felt this way. He had told 3 other students he wasn't feeling just right, but he didn't understand why. Can you imagine what those 3 students had to deal with after the fact? So I always tell them, we spoke at a church last night, and I can't express enough to them that it's very important to talk. Because it's always better to lose that friendship than that friend. So now I've started the 5K, one step at a time. This will be my 4th year. And I named it that very. I had a close friend of mine say, Sherri, what do you tell me every time I ask you, how are you? How is your family? How are the kids? And I will tell them, it's one step at a time. Even after 8 years, it's still one day at a time. I loved, Scott's room is still the same. His clothes have never been removed. His bed is the way it was. His shoes sat by the front door for over a year. Because the reality was, he wasn't gone. In my mind. The one step at a time is for education, for people to come and to feel they're not alone, to walk for those who cannot no longer, or don't have the strength to. And when I started this, someone asked me, what is your goal? What is your goal that you want to do with this? And my goal is to stop just one suicide, to prevent one more suicide, to prevent another mother standing in front of you telling her story. And I did that last year. I had a young lady come up to me afterwards and thank me. And I said, thank you for coming, thank you for supporting and believing in this. And she goes, no, you don't understand. I was on the verge of taking my life. I have now sought help, and I don't want to complete suicide. So I did it. After the walk, you're exhausted, and you're thinking, am I getting out there? Are people listening? Is it helping? If anything was my affirmation, it was her. Standing in front of me and saying thank you. I want to read. I will close. In Scott's journal, he shared a lot of poems. And this is a little bit of what he was feeling. And to this day, as a mother, as my husband, not seeing the signs because we get too busy. But I'm going to end with a poem that he had written in his journal. The pain is overwhelming, and I don't know why. Every day is a struggle, and I fight to get by. When will all this torment end? Nobody's know when. For the world has burned holes in me, and those you cannot mend. He wrote this 10 days before he took his life. Thank you. I was overwhelmed with the standing ovation. I've never spoke to this many people before. It's been smaller groups. So that was a little overwhelming at first. But once I got up there, the power came over of me to, I've got to do this. I've got to tell my story, as hard as it is. Just like I affected the young lady last year at my walk. You know, hopefully they can walk away learning something today. Walk away with that to help someone else, to help another family. The impact today, the people that was here was huge. Tremendous outpour of, I could feel the love and the admiration that everyone had today. It was huge. It was good. And I think being the second year, I think everyone that was here today realized we need this. The community needs this. Life is so busy. The world becomes so busy. It's 1 hour to sit, reflect, and think, how can I go today and make a difference? Suicide is an ugly word, and it took me a couple years to say that word. People would ask me, oh, what happened to your son? Well, he passed away. But the truth be known, it was suicide. And that's a heavy word to take on, but that's the reality of my life, my family's life, and it needs to stop. One day at a time, one child at a time, one adult at a time. The numbers are skyrocketing. And after today, I'm hoping maybe we stopped one. Maybe they went home, a parent went home and talked to their child and asked him, how are you? Are you doing okay? What do we need to do? The questions I never asked my son because I thought he was okay.